Thank you for joining us yet again on our news desk on QTV. The headlines. The Road Transport and Safety Agency RATSA says the 45,000 motorists captured by speed cameras for overspeeding will have to pay the fines. Former Minister of Transport and Communications William Harrington says concerns by motorists on the newly introduced speed cameras are genuine. Misunderstandings have arisen at the Lusaka City Council between the mayor and some councillors, prompting Lusaka Province Minister Boma Lusambo to call for a meeting with the civic leaders. Now here's the news in detail. The Road Transport and Safety Agency RATSA says it will not waive off fines slapped on 45,000 of speeding motorists in Lusaka captured by speed cameras. RTSA Chief Executive Officer Zinda Basoko has told a media briefing that the agency has simply resolved to increase the time frame for payments to be made for those who have infringed on the speed cameras from 7 days to 30 days. Mr. Soko says the agency will also, going forward, enhance sensitization on whether the speed cameras have been placed as a guide to motorists. He says the fines cannot be waived off because the motorists were given a pre-notice in good time about the cameras that would be set up and the need to observe the stipulated speed limits. Mr. Soko has further stated that the agency will come up with a points system on the numbers of infringements where a driver's license will be invalid once a motorist has exceeded a certain number of points and they will have to apply for another license. He has emphasized that the speed cameras are aimed at reducing the number of road carnages as a result of overspeeding.
The waiver for fines, like I mentioned earlier, there was a notice, a pre-notice given of these speed management devices being put on the road. That pre-notice was sufficient for everybody, but what we're going to do going forward is that in the other rollout areas, we are going to carry a more up-step sensitization to all motorists to be aware of the next points of coverage. The waiving of these fines won't be done. What we've just done is increase the period of erring motorists to pay. And just to add on to that, you have actually other individuals who mentioned that throughout, motorists who are saying that throughout the day, I've received 5 infringements. But when you've received 5 infringements, it means that throughout the day you've been passing points which are enforced by speed camera and you've been infringing. There is no scenario in the world that you infringe, if you infringe once, then you infringed for everything. The infringement is as per infringement that you have undertaken. Talking to that, the ESAMT system, we're having a scenario of the implementation of the point system on the driver's licenses. So the more you infringe, the more you lose the points. When your points are finished, you have to restart the process of getting a driver's license, because then we know that we need to teach you, reteach you, refresh you on how to drive.
And Mr. Soko has announced that the agency will soon commence the process of registering vehicles. He says this has never been done since the time Zambia got independence.
As you may be aware that the current RATSA vehicle database has a population of 765,000 vehicles. However, you may wish to note that only 50% of these vehicles appear to be active on the RATSA database, which is a very worrying scenario for us. Hence, we are going to undertake the vehicle registration exercise, and we are currently working on the processes of us going into this implementation. You may also wish to note that according to the Road Traffic Act number 11 of 2002, the agency is supposed to carry out vehicle registration every 10 years for purposes of updating the database. You may also be aware that as RTSA or as a country, this vehicle registration exercise has not been carried out for the past 50 years plus, since independence. Therefore, as an agency, we are saying that owners will require to undergo this process and would like to lay out the benefits of registration of various motor vehicles and trailers. You have improved security of the particular vehicles. The issues of checkpoints is eliminated since this will be electronically screened. Electronic payment of fines, road tax and other services, improved service delivery at tolling points for quick passage, improved compliance of motor vehicles fitness and licensing, improved and enhanced monitoring of speed for all vehicles. As you may be
The Zambia Road Safety Trust, ZRST, has urged governments to ensure that all speed camera sites are conspicuous and visible before the implementation of the speed camera program. ZRST chairperson Daniel Mwamba says government should also set clear rules defining how cameras should be signed. Mr. Mwamba says ZRST is deeply concerned about the controversial debate in the media about the speed cameras, which can have a detrimental effect on road safety. He says ZRST therefore welcomes the calls by the Minister of Transport and Communications and the Road Transport and Safety Agency's Director for a review. Mr. Mwamba states that ZRST calls for the speed camera program that should be based on visible speed enforcement, ensuring maximum opportunity for drivers to keep to speed limits. He adds that the speed cameras should be installed at sites where there has been a high level of accidents over a short period of time. Mr. Mwamba notes that speed cameras are an extremely successful element of an integrated speed management strategy, and that studies have consistently shown that deaths and serious injuries have been reduced by over a third at speed camera sites. Former Transport and Communications Minister William Harrington says concerns by members of the public on the newly introduced road traffic speed cameras are genuine. Mr. Harrington says while these cameras are meant to help reduce traffic accidents, there should have been more sensitization on their installation. In a walk-in interview with QTV News, Mr. Harrington is of the view that the Road Transport and Safety Agency RATSA should have put signage on roads where there are cameras or where the cameras have been installed. He says he believes that the RATSA should be about regulating road traffic through education as opposed to imposing punitive fines on contravening motorists. Mr. Harrington has also suggested to the RATSA to also consider increasing the speed limit on the Great East Road from the current 60 kilometers per hour to 80 kilometers per hour. He believes that a speed limit of 80 kilometers per hour on roads like the Great East Road is reasonable, and it is neither too fast nor too slow.
RTSA should also consider fixing upwards the speed limits along the Great East Road from 60 kilometers an hour to an optimum speed of 80 kilometers per hour, if this has already not been done. I believe that the optimum speed of 80 kilometers is not too slow and also not too fast for that type of road, which leads to our international airport. I also want to ask RTSA to inform us how many of those that have contravened the speed limits through these machines, how many of these motorists are GRZ or government workers driving GRZ vehicles, and how much these GRZ vehicles have paid towards these statutory fines, because I believe that this law should not be selective.
Misunderstandings at the Lusaka City Council between the mayor and some councillors have prompted Lusaka Province Minister Bowman Lusambo to summon all councillors to his office for a meeting. A source who sought anonymity has told Q News that the meeting, which is being held behind closed doors, is also being attended by the mayor, the deputy mayor, the town clerk, and Lusaka District Commissioner. Earlier, before going in closed-door meetings in Lusaka Province, Minister Bowman Lusambo called for unity and respect among councillors in the province. Speaking when he met with councillors from the Lusaka City Council at his office, Mr. Lusambo noted that in order to see a better Lusaka with developed constituencies, there is need to work as a team. Mr. Lusambo stated that he does not expect to see anything less than unity among his councillors, as they are all PF members pushing the same agenda of President Edgar Lungu's vision. He noted that there are a lot of ongoing projects in Lusaka in various wards which require unity to be achieved and completed. The minister has since emphasized the need for councillors to avoid getting into mayor or deputy mayor's way to cause anarchy and confusion.
And in each organization, the paramount thing is respect. You have to respect one another. You have to respect the office of the councillors, you have to respect the office of the deputy mayor, you have to respect the office of the mayor. If you are showing that disrespect to your officers, there is no one who will come and respect your officers. You need to respect one another. And give us that picture, that the Lusaka City Council is united, the Lusaka City Council, they are ready to work. And we know what we have to do. All of us, we know our responsibilities. I want to quote our encouragement, which has been coming from His Excellency Edgar Chabalungu, President and Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces. He has been encouraging all ministers to keep our reign. Keep your reign. Keep your reign. Let the mayor work as a mayor. Let the deputy mayor work as a deputy mayor. Let the councillors work as councillors. And in each of
Southern African countries meeting in Lusaka for a public health management or emergency management FEM workshop have recognized the need to shift from response-dominated approach of disaster management to emergency risk management. The workshop, which is being held from the 20th to the 24th of August, has brought together public health representatives from the 16 member states of the Southern African Development Community (SADC) to deliberate on the various public health emergencies and the appropriate response plans. The workshop aims to develop a common approach for strengthening the Southern African regional public health management by understanding the regional context and identifying priority actions to regional networks. Speaking during the opening ceremony on behalf of Health Minister Dr. Chitalo Chilufya, Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary for Administration Dr. Kennedy Malama underscored the need for countries to prepare for emergencies in advance. Details in this report.
Diseases and other public health threats know no boundaries. Therefore, regional collaboration is key in addressing them. This is why the United States Center for Disease Control and Prevention, together with the International Association of Public Health Institutes and the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, have organized the Public Health Emergency Management Workshop, which has attracted 16 SADC countries to be held from 20th to 24th August. This forum helps Southern African member countries refine priority actions for emergency management and build networks essential for efficient and coordinated responses to public health events emergencies. Ministry of Health Permanent Secretary for Administration, Dr. Kennedy Malama, who represented Health Minister Dr. Chitalo Chilufya at the workshop, has underscored the need for countries to prepare for emergencies in advance.
Africa is now awake and ready to take up the challenge of building strong relations and coalitions among neighboring countries to avoid a repeat of the Ebola virus disease and other public health threats. Nevertheless, this can only be actualized if the public health institutes are established in all member states and the existing ones strengthened with a solid and dedicated public health emergency management pillar that will seek to address future outbreaks. The 2005 International Health Regulations underscore the need to prevent, protect, control, and provide a response to the international spread of diseases. In this context, preparedness and response cannot be overemphasized in allowing smooth flow of business across borders. This timely workshop, therefore, brings together experts in international health regulations, communicable disease surveillance and response, incident management, cross-border surveillance, among others, to identify means of managing key cross-border public health emergencies. Programs such as Public Health Emergency Operating Center and Incident Management Systems are some of the models that can assist proper preparedness.
Dr. Malama also highlighted how the workshop brings together experts in international communicable disease surveillance and response incident management.
I reaffirm the support of the Zambian government, SADC, and Africa CDC in actualizing this strategy. My take-home message to all of you is that together we can transform public health emergency management in Africa and ensure that no outbreak or epidemic with the magnitude of the 2014-2015 Ebola virus disease outbreak in West Africa or anything closer to that will ever happen to the continent and particularly to the southern region. I'm confident that the outcomes from this meeting will help actualize the vision of a prosperous, healthy, and wealthy region of Africa, ensuring universal health coverage and public health security at a global level.
United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention country coordinator, Dr. Simon Agolori, says the United States government remains committed to helping its partners around the world to prevent, detect, and respond to public health threats.
It is therefore imperative that the national public health institutes in the region are strengthened if public health emergencies such as Ebola and cholera are to be managed in Southern Africa and the world. I am confident that this workshop will foster regional partnerships and networks for emergency preparedness and response, as well as strengthen capacity to meet obligations pertaining to international health regulations. To conclude, I would like to commend ZNPHI, CDC, Africa CDC, and INFI for your vision and leadership to support a long-term sustainable framework for a safer, healthier, integrated, and prosperous Africa, in which member states can prevent diseases, detect and respond together to crises of public health importance. The U.S. government is delighted to be a part of this continued partnership.
The workshop aims to develop a situational report and prioritize list of disease threats and hazards, draft framework for regional collaboration, and establish plans of action to continue regional networking. The countries attending will share the various threats and hazards in individual countries, vulnerability and risks assessment to identify common problems that can be mitigated through strong networks and partnership. The workshop was not short of entertainment. Martha Katambi reporting for QTV News in Lusaka. Diseases.
Foundation for Democratic Process FODEP Executive Director Mwenge Chimfwembe has called on President Edgar Lungu to address the electoral bodies in the region as he assumes chairmanship of the SADC organ on tax, defense and security operations. Mr. Chimfwembe is concerned that stakeholders have lost confidence in the electoral bodies in the region as evidenced by the court challenge to election results by opposition political parties in Angola, Zambia and Zimbabwe. He says these trends speak volumes on the need for the president to ensure that the lacunas in the electoral bodies are addressed. Mr. Chimfwembe has advised President Lungu to rise to the occasion by showing leadership amid the growing political tension in the southern region. Meanwhile, Mr. Chimfwembe says while the task that has been bestowed on President Lungu is huge, he believes he will deliver according to the expectations of SADC member states.
First of all, we must say that it's a good sign that SADC recognizes Zambia in this capacity. We know that the position is quite important, and therefore we believe that first of all it's important that SADC leaders begin to address the drivers for insecurity within the region. And looking at some of the oppressing economic situation, there's too much inequality in the region. Youth unemployment is on the rise. You also have a situation where some elements of undemocratic tendencies creeping in. So we want President Lungu with the other heads of state to begin to look at how all these drivers of insecurity can be addressed. And we want also to see a very strong leadership, demonstrated, particularly in areas where some leaders fail to recognize their own constitution. We have had the countries like the Congo, where problems basically emanated from the leader not recognizing the constitution that is there. So all these elements within the SADC are creating strife, conflict, and therefore we want very strong leadership from the president regarding that. First of all, we must.
Political analyst Dr. Alex Ngoma is concerned that the country has continued being polarized due to political differences between the ruling Patriotic Front and the opposition United Party for National Development. Dr. Ngoma says the politicians have continued pooling their efforts to issues that are causing tension among them rather than bringing development. He has called on politicians to realize their role in enhancing development in the country. Dr. Ngoma expects politicians to foster peace and unity instead of focusing on matters that have the potential to divide the nation.
Zambia has unfortunately continued to be a polarized nation. There's this political polarization between the party in government, the PF on one hand, and the UPND on the other. And for that reason, what has continued to happen, very, very unfortunately, is that we have spent so much time focusing on political squabbles, political differences, rather than issues that are really most important to the people of Zambia. The issues to do with creation of jobs, stabilizing the economy, ensuring that there's peace, unity, and stability in the country. That is what we are not doing. And an accusing finger has to be pointed at, the political polarization in the country. Zambia.
Young African Leaders Initiative Yali President Andrew Ntewewe called on the government to publish the Constitution Amendment Bill of 2018. Mr. Ntewewe says this will enable the public to have knowledge of the clauses that need refinement and be able to participate in the process. He says failure by the PF government to amend the Constitution now is likely to result in the opposition using the issue to decampaign the ruling Patriotic Front ahead of the 2021 general elections. Meanwhile, Mr. Ntewewe has noted with concern that the opposition political parties have not been categorical on which areas the Constitution they want to be refined.
But what the opposition does is that they stop government from tabling the bill, and so government does not table the bill. Whereas still government does not publish the bill for citizens to actually have a look at the areas that need amendment. But also, on the other hand, you have an opposition which constantly says, amend the Constitution, and has not been able to come with an alternative to give Zambians to say, these are the key provisions that we expect to be done. If this had been done on either side, for instance, Zambians would have been in a better position to be able to look at the amendments that are being suggested, and would have been able to debate and say, are these amendments proper, are these amendments which we want, or probably these are not the amendments which we want. In this case, we want to call on the government that the buck actually stops at government. And in fact, to us, it is a strategy for the opposition, once again, to halt the constitutional reform process, so that come 2021, they want to use it as a political gimmick to say the government has failed to deliver on the Constitution. So our call to government is, it would be prudent and correct going forward that the bill should be immediately published. It has to be published so that we can look at the thinking of the Ministry of Justice.
The ruling Patriotic Front has reiterated that it remains committed to unconditional and/or inclusive national dialogue. Patriotic Front Secretary General Davis Mwila says the ruling party has taken note of the position taken by the Church and the Zambia Center for Inter-Party Dialogue over the national dialogue process. Mr. Mwila says the PF will in the next few days issue a conclusive position in the spirit of driving the national dialogue ahead once the internal consultations have been made with members of the Central Committee. In a statement made available to Q News, Mr. Mwila says there is need for all stakeholders to find a common ground that puts the interests of the nation at heart. He says the Patriotic Front leadership will not stifle debate on either the facilitation of leadership of the dialogue nor favour or sideline any key stakeholder in this process, but will continue to listen to all voices. Mr. Mwila states that the PF has always been ready and willing to dialogue based on a workable issue-based agenda that focuses on reforms in the Constitution, electoral laws, and agreed enforcement of the Public Order Act. The Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, Lilian Sioni, has called on law enforcement agencies to develop innovative measures that will proactively address the new challenges in the fight against human trafficking. Speaking during the opening of a workshop on investigation and prosecution of human trafficking, Ms. Sioni revealed that in the first quarter of 2018, 3 Congolese and a Zambian were prosecuted and convicted for trafficking 15 children comprising 5 females and 10 males. Ms. Sioni is concerned that Zambia is seen as the source destination and transit country for human trafficking. In a speech read on her behalf by State Prosecutor Rosemary Kuzwayo, Ms. Sioni says out of 293 cases of suspected human trafficking recorded in 2017, 43 victims were children below the age of 18. She has since encouraged prosecutors across the country to work together with relevant law enforcers in dealing with issues of human trafficking. Ms. Sioni thanked the Conference of Western Attorney Generals, SQUAG, for working in close collaboration with the National Prosecutors Authority to organize the workshop.
At the national level, government has, with regard to the legal framework, enacted legislation and affected measures to ensure that thorough investigations and robust prosecutions of perpetrators are carried out. As regards the measures earlier mentioned, the country has put in place the first notable one is a countrywide capturing system, which has since been rolled out to all the 10 provinces, especially in the major border controls and airports. Secondly, the Department of Immigration has introduced a standard operational procedures manual, which contains standards and procedures to help immigration officers in dealing with issues of mixed migration. The manual outlines a step-by-step process in handling cases relating to human trafficking. The third notable intervention in the formation of is the formation of a national committee on human trafficking and mixed migration, whose membership is drawn from different ministries and partners who have a stake in cases of human trafficking. The country has also put in place a 3-year action plan on human trafficking and mixed migration. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the Zambian government has also undertaken steps to strengthen the capacity of law enforcement officials. Further, the Department of Immigration, with financial assistance from the International Organization for Migration, has continued to build capacity of immigration officers countrywide and has incorporated human trafficking in the training curricula for the department. This notwithstanding, traffickers have also become more sophisticated, organized, and adept in technology. Consequently, the gap between combating the scourge and implementing effective countermeasures has widened. At the national level.
Speaking at the same event, Assistant General Counsel for PISA and a board member of SQUAG, Marcus Green, says his organization is working in partnership with 8 African countries to combat trafficking in persons. He says they started the partnership 2 years ago and are working with countries like Malawi, Zambia, South Africa, Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, and Senegal.
Successful. So we do primarily 2 things, right? We put on symposiums, which in many instances is the power of awareness, bringing awareness to an issue, making sure that the public, making sure that the prosecutors, judges are all aware of issues. And when I say issues, I'm talking about what we're talking about here today, human trafficking. I'm talking about money laundering, cybercrime, issues involving technology and discovery, issues involving transnational crimes and transborder crimes. And so those are the nuts and bolts of what we do. So symposiums is one, And then we have training, where we bring in experts like Jorge, and we kind of walk through investigative techniques, how to prosecute, how to organize a case, how should prosecutors and investigators work together in order to solve crime. The whole idea behind the program, behind the Africa Alliance Partnership, which is part of CWAG, is the recognition that we live in a global village, right? The notion that what happens to a young girl in Nigeria can impact a young girl in New Jersey. The notion that we're all connected. It's all one big justice ecosystem. We're all trying to do the right thing, trying to bring justice to the victim, right? After all, what we should be doing as prosecutors is we should be focusing on the victim. Successful. So
the Citizens Economic Empowerment Commission, CEC, has disbursed close to 316 million kwacha to over 3,000 companies for various projects in 2018. CEC Director General Likando Mukumbuta tells Q News that of the over 3,000 companies that have received the funds are dotted across all the 10 provinces of the country in 52 districts. Mr. Mukumbuta says the Commission has put emphasis on funding women and the youths, adding that 70% of the funds disbursed have gone to women and the youths. He says the Commission's aim is to help create over 150,000 jobs through various funded projects by 2021. Mr. Mukumbuta says the supported funds are in the agricultural sector, the livestock sector, and the manufacturing sector, among others.
Close to 315 million kwacha from the Citizens Economic Empowerment Fund to just under 3,000 companies. Out of those programs, those projects, we've laid a lot of emphasis on women. I mean, I can confirm that about 43% of our projects have actually gone to women, and about 30% of the projects have gone to young people. So our emphasis on youth and women is actually showing results, and right now more than 70% of our loans have actually gone to young people and women. The purpose of the Economic Empowerment Program right now is to ensure that Zambians are mainstreamed into the economy, so that the Zambians actually start driving all the major components of the economy. Particularly the industrialization program. We want industrialization to take root in Zambia, but we want it to take root in a manner in which Zambians are actually at the forefront of industrialization. You know, having said that, we've noticed that in terms of where we are right now, we find that when it comes to the shopping malls, for example, a significant component of things that are sold there are still imported. If you look at the clothes that are sold in the shops and so on, a lot of them are imported. But when you go into the supermarkets, you find that we're making a lot of progress in the supermarkets, where a bulk of the things that are being sold in the supermarkets now, whether you're talking about the meat, when you're talking about the fruit and vegetables, when you're talking about things like detergents and so on and so forth, a lot of those are actually supplied locally. So we are winning. We're winning. Close to
Horizon Schools in Lusaka has reaffirmed its commitment to corporate social responsibility by sharing with the poor and the less privileged in the community. School's principal, Sally Gulan, says it is an annual practice for his schools to make donations in the month of August. Speaking at a media breakfast meeting in Lusaka, Mr. Gulan disclosed that Horizon Schools will this year slaughter a total of 35 cows, which will be given away as gifts. He says the beneficiaries will include Matero Orphanage, Avondale Orphanage, Tasila Lungu Foundation, Esther Lungu Foundation, and Abdullah Mosque. Mr. Gulan adds that the people in areas such as Chipata, Chazanga, Kabanana, 6 Miles, Mtendere and Chawama will also be among the recipients of this year's Horizon Schools donation.
You know, if we take advantage of the season or such things in our community, I think we can support our needy people in our community. If you know sharing, I think Mr. Mbula, I think we are going to solve all the problems in our community. So if I give one my neighbor or the people in need, I think we can sort all these problems in our community. As a part of social responsibility, So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, within 3 days, we are going to slaughter 35 cows and separate into 2.5 kg, more than 1,500 packets.
And Horizon Schools Vice Chairperson Leslie Mbula has clarified that the donations are non-political. Mr. Mbula, who is former Secretary to the Cabinet and Zambia's High Commissioner to South Africa, says Horizon Schools donations are merely a supplement to what government is already doing. He says the schools are aware of the reality that in any given community, there are those who are better off and those who are less privileged.
We are doing this because in every community worldwide, there are those who are better off and those who are worse off. Now, those who are better off must assist the ones that are less privileged. And this is not just Islam, Christianity, in fact, even lay, we always want to share with the less privileged. That way, the less privileged will feel a sense of belonging, and they will not raid your home to steal because you are enjoying and they are not enjoying. Besides, it's our responsibility to help those who are less privileged. We are doing this.
The Chwela Kumushi traditional ceremony of the Soli-speaking people of Wundawunda Chiefdom in Rufunza district will be held on the 25th of August. Secretary to the Soli Shamwifwe Royal Establishment of Wundawunda Chiefdom, Felix Kandolo, says all is set for the traditional ceremony. He says the royal establishment expects a mammoth turnout for the ceremony after 5 years of not having it due to succession wrangles. Mr. Kandolo says preparations for the ceremony have since reached an advanced stage.
We have, of course, the ruling party. We have oppositions. But everyone, all of them, they are welcome to this ceremony. The ceremony is not for a political party. This ceremony is for the people of the Republic of Zambia. It's for the people of Lusaka province. It's for the people of Rufunza district and Chongwe district. It will be happening for them. It is theirs to come and celebrate the long-awaited Chwela Kumushi ceremony. Yeah, it has been a long time because it has been 5 years. So people are very much eager in Lusaka province, both the world. They are eager now to see it. They want to see where, when they have been waiting, and this is their time. And this is their moment. Nichindi chavo, nichindi chenu kamwisani mwense Chwela Kumushi chirashiki sani kwambe tuense tuse choni tuse tushane tuse tubone mwami wetu Chief Wundawunda the 10th. We have, of course.
That cultural item concludes our news this hour, but before I take a run, here is the recap of stories in the headlines. The Road Transport and Safety Agency RATSA says the 45,000 motorists captured by speed cameras for overspeeding will have to pay the fines. Former Minister of Transport and Communications William Harrington says concerns by motorists on the newly introduced speed cameras are genuine. Misunderstandings have arisen at the Lusaka City Council between the mayor and some councillors, prompting Lusaka Province Minister Boma Lusambo to call for a meeting with the civic leaders. That's it for the news. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. God bless.